The NFL's greatest story of the past quarter century will add another worthy chapter today. The Pittsburgh Steelers visit the Baltimore Ravens. And as is fitting in a late December game between these two great rivals, there is a lot on the line. Jackson comes out in the shotgun formation. Under 8.5 minutes remaining in the first quarter. Ball already at the 30-yard line of the Steelers. Jackson gets the snap and throws to Likely, who is wide open in the right flat and trots in for the first score of the game. Wilson gets the snap. Play action pass, throwing over the middle of the field and caught by Michael Pruitt. The ball is at the 14-yard line, 7:33 remaining in the second quarter. Steelers looking for a stop of their own here. Gets the snap, looking left, gonna fire in that direction and dragging the feet, and in for a score is Rashad Bateman. Touchdown for the Baltimore Ravens. With the Steelers getting the ball first, an opportunity to perhaps tie the game or at least make it a one-score game so you don't feel like the game has gotten ahead of you. You're constantly chasing. Play action pass. Wilson looking. He's going to fire deep down the right sideline. Contact down there as Austin makes the grab as he inbounds across midfield. He is at the 44. The Ravens, what a catch by Calvin Austin up the right sideline. As he gets a snap, back to pass. Looking left, lofting for Patterson, who makes the grab. Touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers. 13:57 remaining. Minkah Fitzpatrick, a huge interception for the Steelers with the Ravens marching. Back comes the Steelers offense, gets the snap. Play action pass, rolling out to the right, looking, will throw underneath. Now it's picked off by Humphrey, coming back the other way, down the left sideline and into the end zone. People here at M&T Bank Stadium have witnessed their Ravens clinching a playoff berth. Now, if there's any silver lining to this 34-17 cloud, it is that the Steelers still have their own pathway to the AFC North, and they control that pathway.
Here we go. This pass is caught, and that's a touchdown. That's the way to work. Come on. He's hit that sack. The Steelers win the football game. Let's go. Come get it. You know what it is.
This one is in the history books.
Here we go.
Welcome to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
Hi, everybody, and happy holidays. Welcome to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show. I'm Missy Matthews. If you were hoping for an AFC North Championship hat or t-shirt under your tree, sadly, it will not be there Christmas morning. A division title isn't unattainable, but losing to the Ravens made things a little more difficult. For more on Pittsburgh's first loss in Baltimore since 2019, let's welcome in Bob Pompeani, who's standing by with Coach Tomlin. Guys.
Hey, Missy, thanks very much. Steelers coming off a tough loss at Baltimore. They were right there with them. A couple of mistakes obviously turned that game around. Head coach Mike Tomlin is here, and you talk about mistakes all the time. And, you know, Russell Wilson, I thought, played a pretty good game, and that fumble seemed to turn the tide a little bit. As a coach on the sidelines watching that, you know, quarterbacks like to slide. They should slide. Was he guilty of just trying to be too heroic in that moment?
Certainly. You know, he smelled the line to gain or the end zone, and oftentimes when there are judgment errors, it's because of the potential of positivity, and guys get overly competitive. And so certainly chasing that line to gain or the end zone probably cost him from a judgment perspective there, and obviously cost us. It was a definitive momentum swing in the game.
And it turned out to be 14 points. Your defense normally is good about, you know, bailing out an offense that turns the ball over. In this case, they drove 96 yards. So together, those two things, I'm sure, you know, turned the tide of that game in a 14-point manner.
Yeah, the turnover component of play is always significant. And then we've talked several times about the complementary component of football around turnovers. Defenses supporting the offenses with a stop after they turn the ball over, or offenses supporting the defense by punching it in when the defense provides a turnover. We didn't play good complementary football, and we lost a turnover battle. And oftentimes, man, that'll make what's seemingly a close game look not so close.
The Russell Wilson interception seemed so uncharacteristic for him, a veteran guy who knows. Did the ball just get away from him, or what was the scenario on that pass?
He just left it inside. He was on the move. He had someone approaching and was about to get in his face, but he just left it inside. We make no excuses about that. I know he doesn't. And obviously Marlon Humphreys made a nice play and ran it back for a score.
Now, defensively, Derrick Henry had a Derrick Henry type of day. And it's interesting, the first time you played him, started with a fumble. He only touched the ball 13 times in that game. This time was 24, and a big difference.
Yeah, we didn't do a good enough job this time in terms of our gap integrity and some of our tackling. Obviously, when you extend drives and you get more opportunity, there's more opportunity and touches for him. A big component of holding him down is winning the possession down game so they don't get a totality of snaps. And when they get the totality of snaps that they got last week, he's going to have an opportunity for a big day.
And Lamar Jackson had some success. Was there miscommunication on some of those touchdowns in the end zone to Andrews and also to Likely?
There were on both tight ends. And, we didn't do a good enough job of communicating on the back end. It's probably, the consequences of not having Deshaun Elliott. But it's just too late in the year for errors and miscommunication such as that. And obviously it cost us in the game. You got to make good people settle for 3. That 4-point swing oftentimes is the difference in really close ball games. This ball game wasn't close enough for it, but that's something that we fight for all the time.
Pretty much expect what you get with Baltimore. Tough game all the way to the bitter end. It's a physical game. The problem or situation you got to deal with now is coming on a short week. How does that affect what you do? Being a home game versus going on the road like you did against Cleveland after a Baltimore game, is there a difference in how you handle those situations?
It's not in terms of the work that we do, but obviously it makes for an easier logistical process when you don't have to load the troops up and fly somewhere. But in terms of our physical work, whether or not we're on the road or at home, in terms of the construction of our days, they're no different on a week such as this that's extremely short. There's not a lot of physical work. They're high-intensity walkthroughs so that we can be inclusive and give as many people as possible an opportunity to get ready to play. And as far as the physicality component of it, I don't worry much about that. Kansas City played on Saturday as well, and they're working on a short week. They played against the Houston Texans team that's very physical as well, and so they have the similar issues that we have relative to getting their team in this stadium and ready to go.
All right, Coach, thanks very much. Coming up, it is the Kansas City Chiefs, a chance for the Steelers to take another step toward winning an AFC North crown. We'll talk about Kansas City and their 14-1 record when we come back. Missy, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Bob. But on the other hand, Kansas City will be looking to clinch the AFC's 1 seed in a first-round bye in the playoffs with a win over Pittsburgh. It's something the Chiefs have been accustomed to with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. Mahomes now has the second most seasons with 14-plus wins in NFL history. The Chiefs' victory over the Texans in Week 16 gave him 3 seasons, just 1 behind Tom Brady. The 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show will be right back.
On behalf of all of us here at the Pittsburgh Steelers, here's wishing you and yours a very happy holiday season. Here we go.
Welcome back to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
The Chiefs have won 5 straight games after their lone loss of the season to the Bills in Buffalo. With their victory over the Texans last Saturday, they were able to go undefeated in Kansas City in 2024. They'll finish off their regular season with 2 on the road, starting with their Christmas Day showdown in Pittsburgh. For more on that, let's go back to Bob and Coach. Guys.
Hey, Missy, thanks very much. Kansas City comes to town. They're 14-1. It's a Kansas City team that's been very busy over the last 3 years. From a coach's perspective, Mike, Andy Reid's gone through back-to-back championships. It's hard to do that. No one's ever done 3 in a row. What kind of toll does that take on a team over the course of those 3 years?
I'm sure in a lot of ways the additional games in terms of the physical wear and tear on the players, they play catch up in terms of some of the off-season talent acquisition, whether it's free agency or combine and draft prep. But those are problems that I'm sure everyone in our league want to have, to be quite honest with you. I don't think that Andy or Mahomes or any of those guys have an issue with the additional work or the shortened offseason given the outcome. They got great continuity. They got really good schematics, whether it's Andy Reid's schematics on offense or Spag's schematics on defense or special teams for that matter. They got really good continuity in all 3 phases from a coach's perspective and core player perspective, and I think that allows them to have the level of consistency in which you mentioned, them pursuing their third straight championship.
What is it about Patrick Mahomes, his magic when he gets things going? It seems like he's had some pressure this year. The offensive line has had some flux to it. He seems to know exactly where to go with the football at all times. You've seen it over. It's different than Lamar Jackson's sort of play. What makes him so special?
There's a mastery of the system of offense that he's in. He understands where everyone is really at all times, and that allows his instincts to show much more consistently. He's able to throw no-look passes. He can throw on the move. He's got some physical skills in terms of his ability to deliver the ball from a variety of angles and some movement things that really kind of wrap a bow around all of those things that we've just discussed. He's able to extend plays. He knows where everyone is. He's got unique relationships with some of those eligibles like Kelsey. He and Kelsey have been together for a long time, and so that nonverbal communication or that cohesion that's born out of that, man, you can't put a price tag on. He does a good job of being inclusive and distributing the ball around to a lot of guys. He's got a bunch of new guys, whether it's Juju in his return or D-Hop and some others. Hollywood Brown's back from injury. It just seems no matter who's out there, Watson, it just seems whoever's out there, he does a really good job of distributing the ball to a lot of people, making you defend all the eligibles while at the same time benefiting from some long-term relationships like 8-7.
Defensively, you mentioned Steve Spagnuolo. He's been there with Andy Reid for a long time. He also has Chris Jones, and to me, it seems like it all starts with him. They move him around. They do a lot of different things. How much of it is a challenge to find out where he is and to make sure he's taken care of?
No doubt. That continuity that I talk about in key people, whether it's players or coaches, I think Chris Jones definitively fits that bill from a defensive perspective. He plays both inside and out. They move him around quite a bit. They do a nice job of kind of staying a step ahead of the posse in that regard, but it's his skill set. He's talented, he's athletic, he's long, he's got a good motor in terms of getting after the quarterback. He's a dangerous guy, and it starts there for us. He's the straw that stirs their drink in terms of creating splash and disruption for them defensively.
You've seen Spagnuolo, inside out what these guys do. Is he more of a guy who comes after you, knowing that he has guys in the back who can take care of one-on-one coverage or whatever they're playing back there? So is he more likely to go after quarterbacks?
He is an aggressive, schematic defensive coordinator, no doubt. I think they're second in the NFL on possession down pressure, meaning 5 or more people on possession downs. He throws a lot of things at you. He does a nice job of teaching from a package perspective. Their guys are able to carry a lot of defense, and that aids in obviously keeping the offenses off balance. But again, he gets in situational moments. He's not afraid to burn the boats. He's been around a long time, and that's always kind of been his personality.
Plus, their secondary is pretty good. It's one of those no-name defenses. Generally, people look at it and say, well, how are they getting it done? They're doing it with a lot of different people mixing and matching, aren't they?
They do a nice job as a collective. The way that they're disguised as a highly organized and coordinated in their blitz game gives them a leg up. And I think that continuity that we've been discussing allows them to carry a big menu and able to produce the things that you mentioned, although you might not be able to mention a bunch of their secondary guys by name. They got some quality players back there. McDuffie is a quality inside and out player that oftentimes matches opposing team's top receiver. They got some real good guys at the safety position. Can't say enough about Cooks. I think they drafted him in the second round 3 years ago out of the University of Cincinnati. He ties a lot of it together back there. They got some guys that move around positionally. Reed moves around a lot. You don't know whether he's playing free safety or dime linebacker. He's a good blitzer. The same thing could be said about their linebacker tandem in Bolton and Tranquil. Both are really good at coverage. Both are really good blitzers in terms of timing and closing on runners and quarterbacks in the pocket.
Yeah, they pretty much have a complete team, and that team will be here on Wednesday. When we come back, Missy, Mike Tomlin will give us our keys to the game. That's next.
Yeah, no doubt, Bob, and their defense is also on a roll this season. They've held opponents to under 20 points in 9 of their 15 games. Only the Broncos and Chargers have done so more often. Coming up next on our show, Merrill Hodge grabs the remote and busts out the telestrator for this week's playbook on the Kansas City Chiefs offense. Now it's time for this week's Yinz Chat predictive question. If you want to take a guess at this one, just head to the Steelers mobile app and answer for a chance to win a Minkah Fitzpatrick signed football. Remember to play every week for a chance at new prizes and even a VIP trip to the 2025 draft in Green Bay. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this break.
On behalf of all of us here at the Pittsburgh Steelers, here's wishing you and yours a very happy holiday season. Here we go.
Welcome back to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
Well, Kansas City has the best record in the league entering the final stretch of the regular season. The Chiefs also lead the NFL with 11 comeback wins and 11 one-possession victories this season. A large part is due to Patrick Mahomes, who leads their offense, and Merrill Hodge has more on that in this week's playbook.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex for the Acrisure Playbook. All right, the Chiefs, Super Bowl champs, and they're very good for a lot of reasons. We're going to take a look at their offense. That hasn't been really explosive and dynamic, but man, they are efficient and they are good in a lot of areas. You got to neutralize a few things. So let's first start with a guy I think everybody knows about, Travis Kelce. You got to be able to neutralize him and control him. At certain parts of the game, you got to select those areas. Now here, the Raiders are going to double him. I would expect the Steelers to do that. They'll find plays to match up as well. But when you double a guy like this, you got to understand how to double. Travis Kelce's right here in the slot, 3 receiver side. And the defender over him is really what we consider the outside defender, because the safety here at the top, he's going to drop down and help inside. So what the defender is trying to do is get really Kelce to go inside. If he goes inside, he knows he has help. The problem that happens here is that outside defender, he ends up becoming the inside defender. Kelce does a whip route, and when he whips it right there, the defender who's got the outside responsibility plays inside too far. You got to trust your inside guy and let him go so that when he returns, you're there to defend him. Well, they didn't do that here, and these guys are going to kill you if you don't do that. So when you go about doubling him, you got to double him right. And there's got to be times during the game, even though the Steelers don't blitz a lot, you got to be willing to come after Patrick Mahomes and pressure him, because they've had problems with their offensive line, even their backs at times. And if you can do this, you can't give him an escape route. And on this case, the Raiders do a great job of this. And everybody has done this a little bit with success. You know, Spillane here at the top, he circles around, scrapes around, and ends up becoming free and getting Patrick Mahomes out. But one thing that they've done a great job here, they haven't given him an escape route. If he's going to escape anywhere, he's got to go backwards. And that's exactly where you'd want him to go. But you don't want to get him going vertically right away, because that is when he really hurts you. They do a great job here of finishing him and playing good on the back end, so they didn't have anywhere to throw the football. That combination of stuff has to be effective during the course of the game to win. And then this is somewhat of a concern. They've got Pacheco, who's come back, who's gotten better and better every week. And the thing that really makes him a good runner is he's decisive. Like, you give him a running lane, he is going to nail you. This is a great example of that and what you can't do. Pacheco is very decisive as a back. He'll find the seam. So if you overplay something, the Chiefs have done a really good job of blocking at the line of scrimmage and getting the second level guys accounted for. And if you do that, it's trouble for your defense. You know, these are things that you can't allow to happen, because if he gets a running lane on you, it's going to be over. So winning at the line of scrimmage, creating penetration, and forcing him to go laterally. I mean, he's a dynamic player laterally, but he's not as good laterally. But when he gets going vertical, he's very dangerous. So those double teams, critical. Coming after Patrick Mahomes, vital. And then winning the line of scrimmage and not letting Pacheco go. I know it's a lot to ask, but that's why they're Super Bowl champs. If you beat this team, man, it looks good for you going forward.
You can catch much more of Merrill's playbooks on the team's official YouTube page. Well, Pittsburgh and Kansas City will square off in the first of 2 Christmas Day games on tap for Week 17. The Steelers are 2-0 on Christmas Day, while the Chiefs are looking to rebound from their loss to the Raiders last Christmas. For more on how the Steelers can get to 3-0 on Christmas Day, here's Bob and Coach with your keys to the game, presented by your neighborhood Ford store. Bob.
All right, Missy, thanks very much. Coach Tomlin is here talking about the big moments of this game, and George Pickens is going to be a big add. I think we've seen, how important he is, even if he's not touching the ball, what he creates for other opportunities. So how big will this be for you in the game?
His presence is big. As I mentioned, he oftentimes affects schematics, and maybe he'll make Spags think once or twice about pressure, because when you're bringing more than 4 up front, they're generally one-on-one opportunities on the perimeter. And so it may slow down their pressure game a little bit or alter the nature or the contour of their pressure game. But that's always the case when you have players like him. They played the Bengals earlier in the year, and you've seen some of the effects of dynamic receivers on schematics. And so that's something that has our attention, obviously, as we prepare.
On the other side of it, you got to deal with Patrick Mahomes, who seems to figure out where everyone is on the field at all times. The relationship with Travis Kelce continues to go on. It may not be down the field as much. There's a lot of possession downs that he's there. What makes that combination so difficult to deal with?
The nonverbal communication, the knowing, the cohesion that's born out of years of working together. And not only that, but Kelce is such an unselfish player. He doesn't get enough credit for the ways that he impacts the game. And some of their mesh-like concepts where they're running shallow crossing routes, he does an awesome job of picking for other guys in a real subtle way, whether it's receivers or backs out of the backfield. He chips his way out. You mentioned they've had some issues in the offensive line, and particularly at the tackle position. He's given up some pass opportunities in an effort to shore up some of their protection. He is a big-time, unselfish player and a really good player, and sometimes statistics doesn't bear that out.
All right, Coach, all the best on Christmas Day. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. And that's going to wrap it up for this program. We want to thank all of you for watching. We invite you to have a wonderful holiday, Steelers and Chiefs, on KDKA tomorrow at 1 o'clock. No Netflix, no worry, we have you covered. And for Missy Matthews and head coach Mike Tomlin, I'm Bob Pompeani. Merry Christmas. We'll see you after the game.